Hello. In this video, I'm going to give some pointers, some big tells of what type of communication someone is having with you with reference to the culture they are from. There are two broad definitions for culture. One is high context, the other is low context. And depending from which culture you are from, even though you may be native speakers of the same language, the way in which you express yourself will be very different, and that can create some communication issues. This has come to the fore in my life because I am from the Caribbean island of St. Lucia, which we are native English. The official language is English. And I moved to the Midwest of the United States, where the native language is English as well. But from what I have observed, the Midwest of the United States is very high context. The culture here is very high context, whereas where I am from, it is a very low context culture. So, because of my personal experiences, I did research and I have come up with a few tells that individuals give when they speak that will lead you, the observant person, to realize what type of culture they're from and how you are supposed to approach what they're saying to you. Now, when it comes to communication or verbal communication, high context cultures tend to be implicit, which means pretty much that what they say or what the words that they use, the meaning is implied. The meaning is implied, though not plainly expressed. So you could think of it as the meaning is hidden. Now, the individuals in a high context culture tend to be very group oriented. They tend to have been around each other for quite a while. And everyone within that culture are very familiar with these implicit meanings of their patterns of speech. Now, if you're not from that culture, especially if you're low context, it will be problematic for you. Now, some of the tells that these individuals will give to let you know that they're in that you're having a high context conversation. The first one I will mention is that the individual may say, when in response to when you speak as a low context speaker, when you speak, in response to what you say, the individual might say, "What I heard you say." Now, this is the response, "What I heard you say." When you say something and an individual responds by saying, "What I heard you say," and then when they express what they heard you say, it is something completely different to what you said, then that may be a very big tell that this individual is looking for an implicit meaning or hidden meaning in what you're saying. That could be a tell that this individual is from a high context culture, and therefore the person may have difficulty in understanding what you're saying. Now, when I mention the phrase "what I heard you say," this does not refer to mistaken words. The individual is not saying "what I heard you say" as they didn't hear you properly. What they're saying is that what my mind heard you say, or what I'm interpreting from your words. So when you hear that phrase, that could be a red flag, or that could be an indication that this individual is from a high context culture. They believe that there's an implicit, or you could say a hidden meaning to what you're saying, and that is what they're focused on. So the phrase, what I heard you say, could be a tell. Another one that is even more direct is when the individual, in response to what you say, says what you are really trying to say. What you are really trying to say. Now, this definitely points to the individual zoning in or zooming in on an implicit meaning. They're basically telling you, you said this, but what you are really trying to say is something else. Okay, now this definitely is a red flag. This is a big tell that the individual is having a high context or the individual believes you are having a high context communication with them. And when you hear that, then your approach should be different. You should be sensitive to that, and be more careful with your words, and frame it in such a way that the individual will not misunderstand what you're saying. So these two phrases, what I heard you say and what you are really trying to say, are some big tells that the individual you are having a conversation with is from a high context culture, and they're looking for implicit meanings in what you in your words. Now, for an individual who is in a high context culture, trying to understand the words of somebody from a low context culture, these are some things that will lead you to understand that this person is from a low context culture and they're having a low context conversation with you. The first phrase now when I say the low context culture, I should explain that people who are from a low context culture tend to be very explicit in when they speak. Now, explicit pretty much means that it is clearly stated in detail, leaving no room for confusion or debate. So when the person speaks, the person is very detailed. The person tends to be verbose or use lots of words to make sure that their speech is not misunderstood. Now, so this is how people from a low context culture tend to speak. Now, from a high context culture, these are some things that the individual, in response, when you're having your conversation, these are some tells the individuals will give that will let you know that they're from a low context culture, and you should be mindful of that. The first phrase I'd like to mention is they will say, listen to my words carefully. In this case, the individual who is speaking to you is giving you a heads up on what you should focus on. Listen to my words carefully. Do not look for any hidden meanings. Listen to the words. Telling you the words are the focus and not some hidden agenda, some hidden meaning. So that could be a tell that the individual is having a low context conversation, therefore, which could be the result of the individual being from a low context culture. The second phrase, which I believe is an even bigger tell that the individual is having a low context conversation with you, is that in response to your response, the individual will say, I never said that. Now this is pretty big. This is pretty big because this is something I have said many times in response to individuals who have misunderstood what I said here in the Midwest. When the individual says, I never said that, this is pretty much letting you know that words and the words are the focus, not the implicit meaning. It's explicit. I never said that. If I didn't say it, then I didn't mean it. Okay, so this is a very big tell. When you hear someone say, I never said that, and if you listen around, you'll hear there are many individuals who say that I never said those words. That indicates that the individual is having a low context conversation. The person could be from a low context culture, low context area, and therefore they are plainly spoken, and you should focus on what they say, on not what you think they are trying to say. So this, in a nutshell, is my opinion on some tells individuals will have when dealing, when speaking to you, which could let you know this individual is from a high context culture or low context culture, and how you should respond to these cues in order to modify your speech so that you are more clearly understood and not misunderstood. Thank you.